All right, everybody, we're going to start this off. Thank you for joining the Being Black in IT podcast. I have not created a recording in some time, but I want to get back into this as much as I can. So this one might be a little bit longer. We're going to cover a couple different articles, but one of the things I want to cover is a recent one-on-one summary and how I responded in a codified manner. I've been at the position, for some time and stuff. Since I got there, I really ain't felt it, so I've been kind of, working alongside other little positions at the same time and things of that nature. So, I'll do weekend positions and, I'll kind of do my thing. I won't get into detail. But what I will say is I got a one-on-one some weeks back from a manager, and they were saying they were identifying some different cases. They didn't really train too good. You're going to see that occur a lot of different times when you're coming into the work environment right now. So you want to try to practice and get as much practice as you can and build your own labs if possible. Now, this is the one-on-one. I'm going to read it pretty much word for word. I might skip over bits and pieces, and then I'm going to talk about my rebuttal, because I was thinking at first I wasn't really going to respond. I was just going to say, okay, I'll start using that process. But I said, well, wait a minute. Let me respond in a codified manner and ask some questions, because once the conversation shifted, this piece of the conversation you're not going to hear. I'm going to read what was on paper. But during the one-on-one, there was a threatening of a position. So this is the first part. She started talking about case movement from one morning, that they were getting some feedback on a case, saying that some commands were not executed. And when I asked about, how to execute them, they weren't really trying to give me that much information. So the ticket ended up getting transferred. So another case, I haven't really been trained much in VMware, but this case was 6 weeks old, and I reached out to several different parties, and I documented where I reached out to different parties for help. So it turns out that there's multiple issues which need several different tickets. And so the customer decided that they wanted to open up a VMware case with their vendor VMware. And I said, okay, cool. Let me know what the findings. Management said, well, that wasn't supposed to be something that was done. Well, here's the thing. I shouldn't have been assigned that case in the first place. I don't have access to none of those VMs, but I grabbed it anyway. So I was told that I need to have a little bit more product knowledge in that. I need to be digging down into the system and getting the logs on the relevant errors and continue down a path to identify the issue. When I was trained on initially coming onto the position, I was told that what you need to do is you need to find the error. Well, how do you find the error? Get the logs. So I get the logs, find what the error is, go to a tech note. If that solves the problem, close the case. That's what we were trained to do. So basically, she said, well, your method is to get the error, search for it, gather the logs, and find an article that'll help. Well, this indicates you're not learning the product, but you're relying on the knowledge base. Well, we were told to do so. When I first came in, that's what they told us to do. So then she started to mention about the productivity. Most people in the company, everybody's kind of going off of maybe 1.5 cases per day that they're closing for these large cases. It's like puzzles when you get these cases. So she said that 9 of the cases, there was 36 cases taken in a month, 15 closed, resulting in 1.1 productivity. 9 of them had tech notes. 2 were directed to outside support. But here's the one thing that I thought that was very interesting here. The efficiency level, she said there was something called an efficiency level. I never knew anything about that. Was 41%. The basic efficiency level should be 67%. This is the first time I ever heard that. So sometimes what managers will do, if they want to bring in productivity, they will bring in new terms to justify whatever they want to do. So the action items was basically, pay attention to the cases, Find a tech note, review it, make sure that the environment fits the tech note. If the tech note doesn't resolve the issue, continue to assist. Make sure you close the cases with a last phone call and email to the customer, a follow-up. And then let me know if you have any questions. Well, I waited about 5 days for my response because I had some things to say. Now, my response was greetings and thank you for the one-on-one. And what I did, here's the thing that I did not tell you guys initially. She said, well, maybe this isn't a fit for you. Maybe this position is not a fit for you. Based upon that's, the productivity and things of that nature. I said, okay, fine. She said that. I didn't say that. I didn't ever say it wasn't a fit. So my response was, and I copied HR in this, I'm using due process. I'm using the Fifth Amendment. Now I'm going to play some Neely Fuller in a little bit and start breaking some of this stuff down into things that I've experienced in the workplace and stuff that I happen to help people out, especially in my book when I'm talking about due process in the Constitution. So I copied HR. I asked HR, I made a request, I made an inquiry, not a complaint, not a gripe. This is more of a report, okay? I don't say that this is a grievance. I don't say that this is a complaint. This is a response, an inquiry, and a report, okay? So I made an inquiry to HR. The first thing I did is I want to find out what is HR's email address. So I opened up a ticket. They responded, well, you can just put whatever information you need in the ticket. So I took the name of the ticket, which was HRC, some 6246, blah, blah, blah. And I just kind of held on that for a day. And I got the name. There's always a name in the ticket. And I searched for the name of the woman that was going to be handling my ticket. And once I got her name in Microsoft Teams, I then copied, then pasted the email to the response along with the manager. So now what I'm doing is, and this isn't something you do all the time, but when they start playing funny and you suspect there's some subversion, what you do is you get HR involved. That's what you do, because someone's saying they made an inquiry that's likening their speaking code name and termination. This is not a fit for you. I didn't say it wasn't a fit for me. So now we got to bring in HR. Here's what I did. Here's my response. I wanted to respond to the email with some key points in the summary I received. And I do understand my production has not been the greatest. So therefore, right there, I've admitted that I wasn't doing the greatest. I know that. We understand that my production wasn't the greatest. So then next I said, I was being told not to rely on the tech notes. Initially, when I was boarded on by the trainers, we were told just to do that. Obtain the logs and determine the issue. This is very confusing. And I said, if we cannot rely on the tech notes, I don't understand how QA can tell us that the tech note was not sufficient. QA is not on the front end to be able to make sound technical judgments on that basis. They can look at a resolution, but not determine if that was a fix. Now what they have started to do is they started to put together this janky offshore quality assurance team, and they pretty much ding you on every single thing. So now it's turning into almost like a help desk position. It's supposed to be a tech support position, tech support engineer. It's literally turning into from a subject matter expert position into a help desk environment. And that's why the company, which I won't name, it's hard for them to keep people. It's really hard for them to keep people. A lot of people are going on, learning some cloud and Kubernetes and going on. Anyway, so they can't really determine. They're not technical. They can only determine if the information is there. And matter of fact, I pointed that out. See, I only root in facts. I don't start talking about the emotions and all of that, whether I'm angry or not. I root into the facts. And I said, okay, as the following information is noted on each case closure, note to the customer. Now, when you close a case, it tells it in quotations. This note may not be a full list of articles used to resolve the case. That's in quotations. So basically, I'm using their own words. When you start making responses and inquiries and reports, if you suspect that you're being subverted, you want to use their own words. Now, mind you, my QA score at one point was at 100%. They want it to be at like 83%. So I'm above average in that manner. So then I said down here, we were told to use logs, tech notes, and Google it. Googling an issue often brings us back to the tech note because they're public tech notes from the company. This is yet another example of technical support engineers being told one thing and told another. And then I made a statement. And then I came back with a question. So I stayed in the question mode in that manner. I said, is there a direct and explicit policy documented across the board? Now, when I spoke to HR today, they could never answer any of my questions. They could not answer that many of my questions. And what I might do is I might go ahead and put it out there. I might put it out there. I'm going to show them. Maybe I should do that the next time they break stuff down. So, and I said this will be concrete and standard clarity on operating procedures in regard to how cases are to be resolved without the use of tech notes. So if you're telling me this, do you have that documented? Then I said my first year, as I expressed multiple times when asking, the subject matter expert for direction or support, many times we were rebuffed with attitude and sharp retort for basic things we may not know, to which management very well knows who is doing this. And I have countless conversations with other subject matter experts and management. So this is a systemic issue. They know about it. I said, this has been going on since I got here. This is not a good training start. TSCs have expressed this several times. It's a known issue and this was systemic. And I said, we're told don't reach out to this person or that person if they're not friendly. And I said, this is not an equitable environment as well. And it could violate HR policy and code of conduct according to so-and-so of the HR article. So now I use their own words again. And I said, there's no reason for anyone at this company, no matter their technical hierarchy, to berate or talk down on a lesser technical TSC, especially in a public forum. Then I mentioned the efficiency level. See, I'm going word for word. I'm treating this like court. 41.6%. I said, I've never seen this measurement in the dashboard and I was not aware of that measurement. Can this be clarified on how it's weighed in the TSC's performance? I asked that question again and I went straight into my key achievements. So I've had 100% good customer experience over a year. This has only been done to a few people in the company in the last couple years. I'm one of the few people. Then I said, I was volunteering a lot of times when people was calling off and saying to hell with this damn company. I called, I volunteered to come in. I didn't have to. I volunteered. I volunteered on multiple cloud and Kubernetes cases when others downright refused to take the case. And then I noted all of them. So at one point, because a lot of people were new to the cloud and Kubernetes, if you didn't really know it too well, you had to know some of the basic product first. But you still might get a case, so that doesn't mean anything. So I was eventually told, well, those cases, the cloud cases in Kubernetes takes too long. You need subject matter experts on that to help you along with it. There's not a lot of cloud people. A lot of those folks come and go because once they get their experience, they're gone. So they told me, well, don't take any more of the Azure or cloud cases. Don't take any cloud or Kubernetes cases. But then they keep giving them to me. You see? So I mentioned a recent case that I saw, which was an Azure cloud case. And the tech note pointed us to a resolution. Eventually, that didn't have anything to do with it. It happened to be a certificate issue. So I had 4 Zoom sessions. I referred the article. Matter of fact, I want to pull up the article because it is public. How to enroll a master server as a service provider in an Azure Active Directory identity provider. So you got to go to the Azure portal. You have to go to Enterprise All Applications. You have to add the application. You have to assign users and groups. You have to, do some stuff in SAML. So you're dealing with your identifier, your single sign-on URL, the SAML signing certificate. You have to do some IDP configuration, and you have to use the administrator guide to generate the metadata, the XML metadata. You got to go to attributes and claims. You got to manage the claim. You got to start messing with these security groups. And there was a bunch of other stuff to get to that point, to find out that they had a certificate issue. So they had to go and get their public certificate at some point. Case closed. Then there was another cloud case. It's about, I don't know, it looks like there's at least 15 or 20 Kubernetes / cloud cases. So I said last year, we were told we needed to focus on cloud and Kubernetes. And the company was moving forward to adopting this because they had that old Fred Flintstone mentality. They should be in the George Jetson mentality, but they had the Fred Flintstone mentality. So they said, you need to focus on the regular cases. But they kept giving me cloud and Kubernetes cases. So they said, don't take, the management saying, don't take those. So I said, okay. So now they're saying these require a certain skill set to take these. So by that stance, I said the command center should not be sending any cloud cases whatsoever, whether it be in calls or the queue, because I'm not well versed to resolve those proficiently according to management. So I'm using their words again. I'm not being argumentative. I'm just using their words. Now, a lot of companies, they don't like that. And you get the uppity Negro treatment sometimes. They don't like that. But in this case, because the position was quote unquote on the line, the code word she used, I said, well, what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to produce justice. I'm going to have to bring in HR, and I'm going to have to get some clarity to this. All right. So, for the cloud cases I closed, I said a good number of those use the tech notes and the guides. And being that the technology is new to the company, many of those guides provided info to the customer to resolve or go to professional services. So we're a break fix shop. Anything that's not break fix, if you say, well, how do I do this? You could send them a best practice tech note or a guide. They need to figure that out and have their administrators configure that. If they don't want to do that, we can definitely set them up with one of their account executives. And we can say, well, look, we'll charge you X amount. That's out of our hands at that point. So we'll reach out to their account executives. A lot of customers will be like, no, we pay you guys X amount of money per year, per month. This is a $5 million contract. You need to pay for this, or you need to configure this. No, we don't do that. We don't do configuration. We could do best practice. We could do maybe a quick little how to do certain things. But most of these calls to us are from system administrators. This is something that they need to know how to do, and they should know how to do it. So, and that's true. Most of the cases, in fact, were configuration and how-to cases. I also, number 4, I kind of named them. I said I have a high QA score above 85%. Now let's go back to the skill set. They were assigning me a lot of database SQL cases and VMware cases. I'm not trained in that. So now I go down to the numbers. And I said, to my knowledge, per the numbers, the entire team is not above 2+ cases closed per day. They wanted everybody to at least close 2 cases a day. That's what they were trying to get. Now, mind you, you got people that were working there 4 to 5 years that weren't closing 2 to 3 cases per day. So I wanted to tackle on that. Because, see, that's like, if you're going to do that, you're going to compare apples to oranges. You got to compare apples to apples if you're going to say this is an equitable environment. So I said that the only people that are probably closing 2 cases a day or more are principal TSCs. How can people work? And here's the question. I get back in the question mode. How can people work in 2 years? Would one of those years as a training year be compared to TSCs working 4 to 15 years, which should have 2.5 to 3 cases closed per day? That's not an equitable metric. And I said that's similar to expecting a new driver in a Camry to race a skilled driver in a sports car, especially when they're being told by SMEs that it takes at least 2 years minimum to become proficient. And that's something they told us in and out of training, people that left and came back. And now, according to the numbers in one of the teams here, up north, their team, I think, was at maybe 1 case a day. And then the year to date is 1.33 across North America. So nobody's closing 2 by that metric, if we're going to use that metric. So I said by that standard, it would beg to ask if the entire North American team be laid off according to the numbers. See, I'm using their words. So then I said, number 4, I brought value. I brought these people well over 10 brothers and sisters. One brother, he never really responded. That kind of put a bad taste in my mouth. He didn't respond, but 2 of the brothers I got hired. So I said, this is notable. So that's some value. One of the brothers is coming in and he's knocking out cases left and right. It's a brother skilled in Python. So I had to note that. So, like I say, this is my response. This is my report. I'm not a complaint. This is my response to the one-on-one, because remember, I wouldn't have done this if she wouldn't have said, well, hey, this may not be a good fit. Because if I would have agreed with that and said, yeah, maybe it's not, I don't think it is, then they would have let me go. And I wouldn't have had the upper hand. You want to be able to have the upper hand. You want to be able to, if you have to, you want to be able to negotiate a severance if need be. If somebody's doing something against due process, a lot of times companies are going to have to, they might have to pay a severance. Sometimes they'll do that because it's cheaper than getting a lawyer. And I'm going to break that down a little bit on how Microsoft, a lot of people don't know what happened with Microsoft and Jesse Jackson many years ago. Y'all like, oh, well, what happened? That's my point. You didn't really hear much. So my summary, I summarized it saying, the first year working, I was understanding that this was a training year. That's what they told us. The expectation of me being proficient in a 2-year time frame on an ever-changing process, because every week they got a new QA thing where they're dinging you. You're trying to do your work, and every 5 minutes it's something that they're dinging you about. I said, so the expectation of being proficient in a 2-year time frame for an ever-changing process and multi-product platform is baffling. Given that I'm constantly assigned cases that are cloud-based while simultaneously being told not to accept them, and the tone that appeared to be threatening of my position is equally disappointing. On top of that assumption that one would master a platform with being thrown multiple different products at any given time, well outside of core, if it's about the numbers, I don't know of anyone with high product knowledge of 4 years of closing 2-point cases a day. So how can my product knowledge be judged on that metric? If a person is here 4 years or so, should they be considerably closing more cases than newer TSCs, given they have been here longer and more product knowledge? And see, that's what I'm questioning. I'm staying in the question mode. Because if we're going to talk numbers, if I've been here 2 years and you say you need to close 2 per day, somebody that's been here 4 to 15 years should be closing at least 3 to 4 to 5 per day. And at one point she said, well, no, just pick an easy case. That's a broad and ambiguous term, because you could easily get a case that appears to be simple, but when you call the customer, it's very complex. Each of these cases, you got to understand, some of them take months. Some of them take months to close because you're dealing with a lot of different moving pieces. Then I gave them example where the command center didn't do a diligent job. There's a whole team that's supposed to comb through, grab the environment information, find out what the issue is, and then put it in the ticket, and then we get it. So somebody gave me a ticket saying, well, this ain't working. So-and-so and so-and-so. That could mean anything. That's like going into a restaurant and saying, let me get a burger. Well, what kind of burger? Oh, it's just a burger. And then when they bring you the burger out and now you're belly aching about it, saying ain't no cheese, ain't no ketchup, you didn't tell them anything. They asked you what kind of burger did you want, and you didn't want to give them any information. So they brought you a burger. They brought you a hamburger with with a bun. Turns out they wanted root cause analysis. Well, at this company, we don't do root cause analysis. That goes to professional services. Like I told you, Kubernetes, cloud cases, where people want configuration, performance. That's professional services. That's where you have to pay extra. A lot of extra. I asked them, do they have any logs? They said, well, there's no case. There's no failures. There's no failures. There's no problem. Okay, well, there's no problem. Again, drinking an empty cup of milk. Well, drink the milk, but ain't no milk. Well, I want you to drink it anyway. That's the logic. So today I closed the case. I went ahead and closed the case. So I said, I'm copying HR. I'm copying HR in the conversation, as I'm sure we can obtain a constructive measure moving forward. And I am requesting support to bring about constructive results. You see that? I'm not making a grievance. I'm not making a gripe. I'm not complaining. I'm making a report and a response and an inquiry. I said I would like HR to confirm the questions and policies, because see, policies are like law. Policies are to be enforced. If you say that, hey, you can't just walk behind some woman at work and smack her in the ass. No, that's against policy. That's code of conduct. That's sexual harassment. That's against policy. That's breaking the code of conduct and a bunch of other rules. So that's etched in stone. Ain't no wiggle around that. Well, she told me I could do it. That's still against policy. Because somebody else could say, well, you know what? I didn't like that you smacked her behind. Even if she told you to do it. If she told you to do it and she sat there and bent over and smiled and looked back like, did he go ahead, let it have it. Smack that thing like you meant it. Listen, that's against policy. Because some other woman can sit up there and say, well, that was sexual harassment. I felt so insecure. They can say anything. Somebody, it doesn't got to be her. It doesn't have to be her. It could be somebody else. It could be some dusty dude at the job. Oh, man. Wow. That's against the patriarchy. He's so misogynist. See? So, yeah, you don't want to do any of that. You don't want to break any code of conduct. You signed the code of conduct. So I said I would like to confirm the questions and policies in regard to this response. And I also requested HR is involved upon any further response to this inquiry. Then I had questions, and then I put the referring ticket, HR, so-and-so, 6826. Here's the questions I asked. And mind you, when I talked to HR, they couldn't answer any questions. We'll save that for the next show. But I'm going to give you that questions, and then we're going to break down a couple articles, and we're going to break down Neely Fuller. The first question was what? What is the policy for termination due to not having specific product knowledge within a given time? Keep in mind, I've already admitted my productivity. I've admitted to the crime. My productivity is not that great. I've already done that, but that's not what's at stake here. What's at stake is you're saying that I may not be a fit. I didn't say that, so I'm making them eat their own words. Wait till you hear what they said. The next question is, what is the policy and time frame, if so, to specific product knowledge that is expected of the TSC to support? If so, how is that measured? Number 3, can you confirm the current average productivity of myself versus the team? Because if you're saying I'm not a fit, is everyone else not a fit? It's got to be a policy across the board. You can't pick and choose. When did the efficiency level come out to play? That was the 4th question. Where is the policy? She couldn't answer that. Number 5, what determines an easy case if the case is not well documented with the issue at hand before given to the engineer from the command center? So these fools will just give you a case, and then you're like, okay, well, what happened to the information? You just giving me a blank ticket. There's nothing in it. I could have created that myself. I could have just said, oh, a server's down. Click save, send. Okay, what environment? Is it Red Hat? Is it Server 2016? Is it Azure? Is it GCP? Is it IBM Cloud? What is it? They don't have any information. Okay, now the last question I asked was, if my productivity does not increase to the average of North America, the whole team, what are the next steps within the 90 days? So that I'm giving them, I want to know right away, what happens here next, so we ain't playing no games. And here was the response. I want to play this so damn bad. I'll wait till the next time. But they wanted, I asked them, could we record the conversation on Zoom? Well, we usually don't do that, and this, that, and the third. I'm like, look, man. So I took it upon myself, and I always tell, especially black folks, y'all, and you working remote, man, please record every interaction with management, especially if you suspect subversion. Record every interaction with HR and management that you have, every single one. Find you an app, and record it. Even if you got to get a podcast machine and plug it up to your machine or whatever like that. If they got a bunch of a bunch of antivirus policies that won't let you bring, plug nothing up, find some app where you can record it. Do not trust anything they say. And that's not necessarily so much just for a lawyer, because there's different states have laws, but you want that for HR. HR can't deny what they heard. HR can't deny what they heard. There's a brother that sent me something. He was dealing with some company where he was dealing with a DevOps company. And so I'm gonna read you his report the next time I do a show. I'm gonna read you his, because he had to break it down. He had to break it down. So she couldn't answer any of those questions. I don't know. I might upload the audio. I might just upload the audio, and maybe I'll chop it up a little bit. I don't know. I might upload the audio, because the bottom line is this. We need to know about stuff like that. She was babbling. She kept repeating herself. She kept babbling, and she kept trying to beat around the bush. She kept trying to really beat around the bush badly. I mean, it was real bad. She couldn't answer none of my questions. Not one. None of the policies. All she could say is, well, we don't have you on like a probationary plan, like a performance plan. We don't have that. We just want to get, to a place where you could get some training and everything. They keep talking about the training thing. And what that is they just throw you in with a PowerPoint, and they say, well, you need to learn all this extra stuff outside of work. Well, I got other things to do, so they don't want to cover that. But I'm like, you know what? Never mind. You know what I'm saying? So they said they would circle back around with management, and I'm going to hear what management has to say. And then they said a one-on-one, for like a month later. So, they're probably planning on laying off another whole team. That's probably what's going to happen. And then as they move into a lot of AI and things of that nature, they'll probably pay a whole bunch of offshore guys from India. But let's go ahead and let's look at this Neely Fuller thing. I was going to play the whole thing and just let it rock, but I think I want to kind of analyze some of this as we go along. So let's play this here.
Okay, that's what you need a code for, so you don't go off, so that the conflict works to your advantage, which is something I want to mention here. Some people picked up some of the copies here. Here's the Constitution of the United States. Is this something that you use? Is this something that you throw in the trash, or is it something that you use? It's something you use. It's nothing but words. The Fifth Amendment and the 14th. Those are the two that you use most on your job and any place else, because those rules and regulations, circulars, policies. See, I had to ask somebody on the job once. I said, is this a law? He said, well, it's a regulation.
Now, what I want to say about that, it is a law. And you heard what I said, policy. It all breaks down to the Constitution. You could use it. You being truthful, you being righteous, yeah, you could use it. You're making inquiries. It is about 20 minutes. I'll probably go ahead and let it rock out. I might just go ahead and let it rock out, man. Because this is important. And a lot of black folks really have not really thought about it in that way. A lot of times things happen to us at jobs and we just go ahead and go along with it. I went ahead and just looked up history.com. I know it's history.com, but he said the 14th Amendment. And I thought about that. No state shall deny to anyone within its jurisdiction equal protection of the law. This was specifically passed for foundational black Americans, for the descendants of slaves. This was specifically passed just and only for us, nobody else. Now everybody else started benefiting from it. But look, the 14th Amendment to the Constitution, ratified in 1868, granted citizenship to all persons born or naturalized in the U.S., including formerly enslaved people. Because remember, the Constitution didn't cover us before. we were considered to be cattle. Equal protection of the law. So reparations, we ain't supposed to be no Mike Browns or no, I sound like the Bagland podcast now. Ain't supposed to be no, nothing happening to black people because you're black. Ain't supposed to be no discrimination or none of this. This is supposed to cover it. Equal protection of the law. One of the 3 amendments passed during Reconstruction era to abolish slavery and establish civil and legal rights for black Americans. It became the basis for many landmark Supreme Court decisions over the years. In later sections, the 14th Amendment authorized the federal government to punish states that violated or abridged the citizens' right to vote by proportionally reducing the state's representation in Congress, and mandated that anyone who engaged in insurrection against the U.S. could not hold civil, military, or elected office. It also upheld the insurrection against the U.S. Y'all know what happened at the Capitol, January 6th. It also upheld the national debt by exempted federal and state governments from paying any debts incurred by the former Confederate states. And a lot of the Confederacy, a lot of those folks were paid back reparations. Anyway, yeah, this was specifically supposed to be for us. It works in the workplace as well. You can try to use it.
I said, is this a law? Well, for all practical purposes, it's a law. I said, why don't you call it a law? See how they trick you? Watch those terms. Circulars. If you work, in what you call, quote, unquote, the federal government, they send around stacks of paper, correct? Say, this is circular number 518. All right? This is policy number 134. This is regulation number 222. Policies, regulations, circulars, rules. People write these things sometimes sitting at the lunch, I think. All right? But they govern everything about you. So what you can do, you can start using this, the 5th and 14th Amendments out of the Constitution. You don't need the whole thing. This is
now the 5th and the 14th Amendments of the Constitution. 14th Amendment, equal protection of the law. We know it ain't equal, and they know it don't work for us a lot of times. But you try to, you use it. You use it if you can use it. Fifth Amendment, due process. You see what I was doing? I was basically just using the HR was like my lawyer. Due process. I said, are we following the law? I said, we're supposed to uphold the law, right? Because once the lady started babbling, I said, wait a minute, let's get back to, she said, I want to focus on it being more positive about it. Let's talk about why was my position mentioned about being a fit? See, once they use certain code words, right? They don't necessarily always say, you're just gone or whatever. That doesn't sound good. So what they want you to try to do is they want you to try to say, well, yeah, I've been feeling real down, and I really don't think this is a good thing for me. And then now you done talked yourself out of due process. It's like when you hear these idiots on the what's that show, the homicide show, the First 48 or whatever. They get to talking. They get in there and they just get to talking. You're giving up all your due process. You're not saying, wait a minute, hold on. You got me in here. You said this is something that I did. Wait a minute. Let me talk to my lawyer. Because a lot of people don't know police can legally lie to you. They can just make some stuff up. They can say that somebody said something. It doesn't got to be true. Now that should be against the law. That should be a crime. But same thing. Hey, we think that this is not a good fit for you. You know what? I agree. I think it's a horrible fit. There you go. You've given up your due process. A lot of people that are at work and they have the union reps. Somebody told me, no, don't talk to the union rep. They start messing with you. You go to your union lawyer and you talk to the union lawyer because he has to follow the law. He has to follow due process. Oh, well, they let so and so go, but did they go through due process to let him go? Did they just say he's gone, or did they just say, it's at will up here in Minnesota? But what did he do? Oh, he was doing great over here at this site. He was doing wonderful, getting along with everybody. Then when he went over here, things went downhill. Well, what happened? He's doing the exact same job. Oh, he is a new management over there. Well, how was the management? Well, the management was very disrespectful. He was talking down to him. He was dinging him on everything. And they said, well, wait a minute. What will happen if we can move him back to his other site? Oh, well, let's try that. Move him back to his other site. Oh, he's doing really good over there. Nobody has complaints about him. Bobby Joe's doing great. Actually, his numbers is surpassing being at the last site. The environment, due process, equal protection of the law. He was not being demeaned or subverted where he is at right now. Before, when he went to the new spot, it might have been management that was subverting him. So, something to keep in mind.
Here's the whole Constitution. It's small. But just the 5th and 14th Amendments. The 5th does what? Due process. That's when they get ready to fire you. And they did fire you, because you couldn't keep them from it. But you've been out of there 6 weeks. But the thing about it, under the Constitution, 5th Amendment, you can get a Johnny Cochran or somebody to walk in and say, they fired you, but they didn't go about doing it right. That's what due process means.
That's right.
Yeah, they fired you. They could do that, but they didn't go about doing it. Now, the reason it can help protect you is because if they start messing with the way this is written, it's going to mess up a whole bunch of white people. So you got a certain amount of cover there. The other amendment is the 14th. That is equal protection of the laws. Thurgood Marshall used the 5th and the 14th all the time.
That's true.
He just went in slapping people with it. See, he didn't write it, but he just used it back and forth to his dying day. And you can use it right there on the job rather than them rules and regulations, I'm telling you. Because those rules and regulations are written by the fellow who's getting rid of you. And he wrote one this morning, just for you, okay?
They'll do that a lot of times, too. Sometimes you'll look up and you sign the Code of Conduct handbook. There's been times where I've asked for the Code of Conduct handbook, and I say, well, wait a minute. Can I have an updated Code of Conduct handbook? Oh, well, we don't have it. And they start explaining and babbling and start making excuses. And you're like, well, what happened to it? You go immediately into the question mode. Can I have that? Well, it hasn't been updated. Well, can I have the updated one? And you look at the old one and then you look at the new one and you're like, okay, well, what are the changes? Because they're supposed to make what they call addendums, I believe, to it. And they're supposed to make little footnotes like, this is what changed from the old one. They're supposed to have that in there. They're not supposed to just have a handbook and then they just throw it in there and then they say, all right, sign it. Okay, what are the changes in this? Oh, well, we added this new policy. Remember, he said policy. So they've added a new policy. They said, well, hey, we said that so-and-so can't do this or whatever the case may be. And then, sometimes they may have some things where, they just decide that they might want to add another policy. There might have been a policy in there that might have been unlawful, and they might have to change it. So sometimes they could do that too.
So-called agency, but if you put the Constitution out there now, and what you call a private concern, which they're privatizing everything, that's a little harder. Okay. Who got a question?
Now, mind you guys, this was uploaded 10 years ago. I'm not exactly sure. This comes from, and I always like to tell people about this, but this comes from a brother that wrote, how to support and defend the United States Constitution. Edward L. Williams Jr. wrote this, and it's like a little PDF. It's a little PDF that came from the page. The person that posted this, I want to give them credit. This was posted August 30th in 2013. This video that I'm playing here with Fuller. I think Fuller was somewhere giving a speech talking about the Constitution, the 5th and 14th Amendments. The person that posted it was by the name of Mega Osman 7. So make sure you subscribe to that brother. It's Mega SMAN7, and he just uploaded it. I see a couple people down here making comments, and this was 8 years ago. So, you know, it's something that, you know, unless you're really looking for it, you probably wouldn't have known about it. But I'm gonna go ahead and give the video a like, and I'm gonna keep playing it here.
Question. The mic is somewhere? Is the mic somewhere?
Yes, I just wanted to let some of the people know here that a lot of the things that Mr. Fuller is saying, they actually work, and that you have to take your time and work with it and listen to the words and experiment with it. And a lot of people, we've gone to seminars where we meet with white people, we try it out at work. And just a couple quick examples. I wasn't really fired, but I was charged with something and stripped of all of my duties. Stripped of all of my duties. And in talking with Mr. Fuller, you know, he was like, hold on, you know, you walk through the process. And I immediately went in and I said that, you know, because this action had taken place, that I was going to conduct an investigation, and that I suspected that there was subversion in the agency. And I actually pulled out the copy of the Constitution, like he's showing, and you go through it, and it's due process. And, you know, they stepped...
And they're not going to like that at all. You're not going to make any friends. But in this case, you got to do what you got to do. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Most of the time it'll work if they're following the law. But, you know, like I said, you're not going to make any friends. You're not going to make any, you know, and they feel like, well, hey, this is the uppity Negro syndrome. You're giving us a hard time. And you're doing the rightful thing you do to do it. You're using your God-given rights to say, wait a minute, this is injustice here, and I want to try to produce it. Well, they might can you anyway. The point is you're using it, because a lot of times with black folks, you know, they'll just be like, whatever, I'm not gonna make a report, I'm not gonna, you know, I won't complain, I'll just go find something else, or whatever the case may be. And a lot of times they end up, what they do is they purposely get you to try to lose a lot of your benefits. The companies save millions, probably billions of dollars doing this, especially to us. And it might be something where you would actually walk away with something. You done already lost your job. You feel bad about that. And some people just don't like putting in the energy. I've used all different types of, you know, resources before, and it worked, you know. And, you know, it's just that you have to have a thickening of the skin to where you're willing to be patient. You know, a lot of us don't want to be patient. A lot of us will just say, well, hey, you know, I'm out, and I'm just, you know, and then, you know, until you run your own business and have your own property and land, whatever, you're just running into the same circle. But you got to kind of know how it works. It works. Most environments aren't any different than any others. This is something that is commonfold. It's not really going to be any different. It may just be different people, and they might play little different sinister games, but a policy is a policy. You know, you just have to start, you know, you document things and say, well, wait a minute. And then you start asking questions about, like, okay, well, if this is done correct, and hey, I requested training to do it correct, you know, to do it correctly and stuff. So, you know, that's the kind of situation I was in, where they're like, all right, well, now we're moving away from, well, this is termination talk. They're moving completely away from that. They don't even want to admit that, because the reason why they don't want to admit it, because not only does it sound bad, but they could be stepping on some weird ground. So they'll say, well, hey, it was just taken out of context. And in this case, HR they're supposed to be neutral, but somebody put the bug in their ear to say, hey, word the narrative, and it was pretty much like propaganda. Move this away from the conversation about what you thought it was, that's not what really happened. Nobody's talking about getting rid of you. Let's talk about you learning the product. Let's talk about that. You're learning the product. You need to do this. You need to do. So let's put this back on you. let's put this back on you. So that was their whole agenda. And they never answered any of the questions. They just basically said, well, hey, no, you're in good spirit. You're in good spirit. Everything is good for you right now. You're straight. So I'm like, okay, all right, cool. But now they're not taking that as a warning. You need to take that as your own personal unwritten warning. Because what you've done right there in their eyes is, well, you made an enemy. This person is using their own rights to do the right thing, but you're the enemy now. That in their mind, well, you're the enemy. You're somebody that's came here to shake things up. You're an uppity Negro. What you're trying to do is cause trouble. You're a troublemaker. You're on this plantation, and you're stirring up all the other Negroes. Cause see, other people, once they start seeing that they could use those amendments, then they're like, well, wait a minute, I'm being mistreated too. So this isn't right. Something's not right. The way that they're going about doing it, what they're doing, they have every law to do. They could do it. There's nothing wrong with what they're doing. It's just the way they're doing it. It's just the way that they're going about doing it. It's the wrong way, and they know it's wrong, and they know it's against the law. And to be honest, the way that some of these employers do, there actually should be criminal charges. Folks should be sitting up in the county jail eating bologna sandwiches with the way that, but most of the time that doesn't happen unless it gets gross. If it gets gross, gets gross injustice, a lot of times they'll just write a check. That's what often happens to that. So we'll move along.
Back and they look, and you go right to the person who's in charge, who at that time was a superior advisor, supervisor. And I told him that I was going to conduct an investigation, and I would pass out all the information found from my investigation, and that I would hope that he would use this information with all the other information that was around to find out if there was a law broken and whether or not it was myself who had broken the law. And I told him that it was quite possible that it was me who broke the law, but we were going to find out. As we walked through it, and it comes from dealing with white people a lot, it's words. It's all words. It's all words. And as we walked through it, it was shown that there was another person who was involved that was not giving me particular, and as the other brother had said, correct information. I wasn't getting correct information, and it was very clear. I didn't get upset when they told me. They just knew I was going to freak out. I said, well, as we hold the investigation, all this will come out. And as it went.
Now, with that piece, when he said we're not getting the proper information or the correct information, they do that everywhere with us, everywhere. So it's to be expected. And most black folks to go to work, especially black Americans, when we go to work, we kind of come with the mindset. We have a kind of a very, very forward-thinking survivalist mindset. We kind of walk in a situation like it's Resident Evil. It's not so much as being depressed, but you're kind of walking in. You understand from the looks to the stares to the, to the energy in the office and everything. You're pretty much ready for it. You understand it. So when you're communicating, like I always bring up, if you guys ever seen Them on Amazon Prime, that is a prime example of subversion in the workplace. 110%. That is a prime example. That's a great case study. I think everybody that listens tonight should go and download that tonight. If you got Amazon Prime, you should watch that. It's not that it's a masterpiece, but it's just a really, really good prime case study example. You should actually take notes. You should sit back with a notepad and take notes on Them on Amazon Prime on how the workplace works. But you probably already experienced it, so you're just kind of like, okay, yeah, that happened. But I think the brother that's speaking is Edward L. Williams Jr. I'm not sure. But he copyrighted this in 2007, so maybe, I don't know. I'm not really sure. But he kind of broke down the code, and he used it in the workplace. And it looks like he called it counter-racism jiu-jitsu. Oh yeah, this is great. It's in PDF. Yeah, it's you can just click on that. You can go to YouTube and you can actually just click on Using the Constitution, Counter Racism at Work, Neely Fuller. That's the title. Using the Constitution, Counter Racism at Work, Neely Fuller. And that'll bring you to the video. The video's been on here for quite some time. So you can click on that link and get that too.
Went through the person who didn't give me the correct information. I didn't charge him with doing anything to me. I charged him with doing things to the United States government.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Now,
that's the way it's done.
This is critical, because what happens is, just as he said, then they can't come at you. The Constitution, NASA.
And see, that's what I did. I didn't say specifically necessarily a person. I started pointing to the code of conduct at the company. The issue is you're saying, well, the company is allowing such and such to occur, and you didn't specifically say anyone. You use broad and ambiguous terms, because that's what they do a lot of times. They'll use broad and ambiguous terms.
The White House, everything is on my side now, because I made a charge that someone's not doing something against the U.S. government.
Yes.
Okay, and then what happened is the person, they blew up at me, and the person actually formed their mouth to call me a nigger. I mean, it was amazing to see this person go off.
Oh yeah.
The supervisor stepped in, and said, hold it, we can calm down here, everything's all right. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, I'm calm, I'm calm. It's a long story, but as we stepped through it, then the supervisor.
That should have been another charge, because right there, 14th Amendment, equal protection of the law. You're assaulting one of the descendants of the slaves. That should have been another one. Someone should have cuffed that dude up right there, and he should have been sitting in Guantanamo Bay, right there at that table. But that won't happen. Well, not right now.
Takes on the quote judge role, okay? And I asked him. I said that if it's true that someone hasn't given the correct information and did it willfully, that's a charge of subversion, and we need to go to the Inspector General. If we don't go to the Inspector General, then all of us are part of the conspiracy.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, all I need to know now is whether or not this is the type of charge that needs to go to the Inspector General or not. Okay? And you'll see what's happening, because now the judge shifts to you. And you're backing the laws of the agency. And if you read through the Constitution, except for about 3 points when they actually mention black people, it's a document for organization. It's a good document for organization, except when they try to count people based on color. As we walk through,
and remember, the original piece, it was specifically designed against us. I mean, literally specific. It wasn't designed for anybody else. It wasn't designed for humpbacks. It wasn't designed for anyone. It was designed specifically for us. So when they made a new revision, they had to just clean it up and make it, they didn't want to just flat out say like, man, y'all is cattle. They didn't want to really say that, but they used code words to say that. And that's why a lot of those amendments, which they still didn't enforce them, that was for us too. Like, okay, well, these are people now, and that's why they fought against it so much. Like, okay, well, no, they property, and you said, well, no, they're people, and they're like, okay, wait a minute, Jim Crow. Well, we gotta enforce the black codes and Jim Crow and peonage. No, we need to put them back in chains. Black folks was like, no, we ain't going, and they're like, oh yes you are, and we like, nah, we ain't going, and then there you go.
He sent the one guy out. The guy came back in, and they decided in front of me. I mean, this was amazing. I never thought this would happen in my life. that they discussed in front of me how they were going to blame it on a third white person who was not in the room.
That is nuts.
Who was not in the room. The amazing part about it, and I have to admit that, you know, we ran experiments with the code, and we had been listening to Dr. Wilson and Mr. Fuller for years, and we had practiced the techniques, and you have to stay real calm because they try to say things about you personally to get you off track.
Right.
They went all around the world. They said, well, you knew already, and you purposely didn't do anything. I said, well, if I knew, why did you have to come call me here to tell me what I did wrong? If everyone knew what I did wrong, why didn't you just correct it? Do you see what I'm saying?
And
because
they'll do that.
we're all here.
They'll do that too. Very commonly. They might tell you to do one thing and it's something completely ridiculous, and you're like, well, I'm not supposed to be doing that. Oh, no, go ahead, Joe, do that. And you're like, well, you sure? Oh, yeah, it's just fine. Just to mess you up. I got another treat. I found out about a position. It looks like it's some black. Well, I don't know. We got to see who the board of directors are. We'll break that down in a minute.
To do a certain job.
Right.
Why is it all this thing about whose fault it is? Why didn't you correct it? And if you knew that something wasn't correct and you didn't correct it, that's against the agency. Okay, now, and I'll let you go quickly, but what happens is I'm saying it's the words. We really have to understand that they're the tools. Everything that you do, like Mr. Fuller says, Johnny Carpenter, it was words. It wasn't him. It was
and
the words
how
that
you
he
used them.
And how you
See,
used
for
them.
one thing, those of you that work for some kind of agency or something, never make a charge against the agency. That's a trick. Because now you're on your lonesome.
Now, right there, that was key. That was key. But in my case, I didn't use that. But I didn't necessarily say, well, I didn't see it the need to bring in the Constitution and that, because I didn't really. It could have been subversion, but I didn't really see that at the time. I said, okay, well, somebody's just saying, your position's on the line. You're using code word to say my position is on the line. So since we're talking about that, when we use HR, and they might have probably brought in and said, okay, well, we got to use the Fifth Amendment. They're not going to say that, but HR is the Fifth Amendment. HR is supposed to use laws to say, are we doing equal protection of the law? Are we using the 5th and the 14th Amendment? That's what HR is supposed to do. HR is supposed to just look at the situation and say, all right, you want to fire this dude. Okay, fine. What did he do? Oh, he didn't do nothing. Okay, well, that's not grounds to fire him. Well, what did he do? And that was the case there. I said, okay, what did you say I did? Now they're backtracking. They want to backtrack and say, well, no, it's all good. Well, no, hold on. Let's talk about this. Why was that even brought up? The expectation, they didn't think that I would go to HR and just say, okay, let's get some clarity on this. What do you really mean by this? Oh no, we have no performance review. We don't have any paperwork to say that you'll be terminated. Everything's all good. We can just move on with our lives. Well, no, I want to know why that was mentioned. And they don't really have an answer. So it's just big cap. They're playing big capoeira martial arts. They're capping. Abraham Lincoln cap. They're basically trying to see if they could smooth it over and pretend like it didn't happen. And the way the HR was going around, it's like they were doing pro-employer. They're supposed to be neutral. And a lot of times they're not. So that's why when she started to babble, I had to say, hey, wait a minute. No, I'm not going to let you babble and keep repeating yourself. Let's get back to this.
You always say that somebody is subverting you in your duties to the agency. And now you want help in finding out who that somebody is. Now everybody has to marshal their forces, but make sure that what you're doing is correct. And usually with the average black person, it is. Because they're doing something against you. But see, you always say, they have tricked us into going to it like we did in the 3rd grade. He said, I said. We go in just like little children, which is what they call us, boys and girls. Mm-hmm. See, so we go in saying, well, he insulted me, and then I said such a thing, and that's the way we write. When we write the report, and then she said this, then I said this, then she called me a no-good bitch, and then, see, that's the way we handle it. That's just the way we write it, just like we did in the 4th grade. You don't do that. What you do is go in and say, now, I signed on to this agency to do my duties, and I always do what I'm told according to the support of the Constitution of the United States. That's what you tell them.
Yeah.
If it's a United States issue. And all issues are. Okay? From what you have been taught. So you're just playing back the record that they taught you in grade school. Mm-hmm. All right? Say, now, in the performance of my duties, and this is the way I've written it up, I have probable cause to believe, using police language, probable cause to believe that someone is subverting me. Now, the gentleman mentioned something about names. See, I don't know who the someone is.
That was another thing. And don't mention any names. There's no reason for you to mention any names because that could be anybody. That's too random. You don't need to mention any names. You don't mention any.
I'm asking for help from the people who have sworn to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States to assist me in finding out who this someone is. Because we got a mole in here. All right? In so many words. You don't have to use that expression because that's a slang expression, but they know what it means in intelligence. We got a person. I come in here every day. I'm working hard. I'm trying to perform my duties. I'm trying to get ahead, trying to make a little money. Now, someone is trying to undermine me. Might be a promotion coming up. Somebody's undermining you and getting that promotion. Now, that someone is undermining the Constitution because by normal progression, you're supposed to be getting, by due process, 5th Amendment. See, and that's where you throw that in. You say, according to the Constitution, someone is subverting the Constitution of the United States. Mr. Anderson, I want to announce to this assembly that someone here, I know not who, it could be a mistake, I hope that it is, someone is in the process of subverting, and take a copy of this with you, subverting this document, which we have all sworn to protect and defend, if necessarily, with our lives. Now, we have someone who is subverting this document. Well, who is it?
Well, speaking of which, one thing they try to do is they try to babble and waste time. Babbling is another thing that they'll start to do. They'll start talking in circles. They'll start talking about this, that, and the third. And, well, I don't, let's talk about something positive and all that. They'll start doing that. That's how you know they're trying to run from the issue. When they start doing that, that's how you know that you haven't, that further confirms you haven't done anything wrong, because they want to run back to you getting, a specific training or what you need to do. They don't really want to talk about what management has done. They want to try to clear them up because, they do work for the company. We all work for the company, but they work for the company to where they want the company to get the best deal. Union reps will do that sometimes, A union rep will tell you to sign away your unemployment rights. That happened to a family member of mine one time. He went in, he listened to the union convinced this dude to sign away his unemployment rights. And if he would have talked to the union lawyer would have been like, wait a minute. He would have started, the lawyer would have said, wait a minute. Don't sign that. Let me see what that says. And the union lawyer should have been able to look at that, interpret it, and say, wait a minute. That's not in so-and-so's, that's not in his favor. That, they letting him go, what's a better deal for him? And if he wouldn't have signed that, they probably would have had to give him severance And he would have been eligible for unemployment until he, gets himself back together and went to get another skill set. But he ended up signing away his unemployment rights. He literally went in and signed some paperwork. They'll do that a lot too.
I mean, you're making this, that's a pretty strong act, and that's what I was told once. Said, Mr. Fuller, you're making a pretty strong accusation here. I say, I stand by the accusation. Say, well, who is this person? Getting back to what you were saying, I don't know. But I thought that your office, and with the intelligence staff that you have here, including yourself, you all can find out.
And they always know. They know who it is because they probably sit down with lunch with them. They sit down at the lunch table and they might be part of it.
You are on the offense. Now, you might say, suppose white people, like Fuller's up here that's playing games. No. Suppose white people that really work in your agency was sitting right in here. And I'm up here saying this. Talking about code. See, when you're on the correct track, by them attacking you, all they're going to do is derail themselves. After you have even told them what your strategy is. See, that's when you know that the code is pure. Isn't this correct, Mr. Reeves? You can tell them what you're going to do. Say, now, when I come in the office tomorrow, you can tap him on the shoulder while he's sitting there. When I come in the office tomorrow, this stuff that we talk about now, I'm going to use it. Right.
I just want to say...
word for word, just like we handed it out right in here.
That's like the Muhammad Ali of code language. That's hilarious. He's actually telling them, and it's there. It's not like they don't know. What it is they know that we don't use it. They know we don't use it. Most of the time, they, like I said, we'll go in there. We'll be like, oh man, this happened, and then you storm out, stomping your feet, and they're like, okay, we got him, because he's not thinking straight. He's not thinking. He's not materializing a strategy.
We are in assembly. You're not listening to Fuller. You're listening to logic. See, and that's one thing the white supremacists cannot stand coming from you. You just be a little patient, keep your voice down, don't start calling people MFs, and just use logic and start walking through it, like Mr. Reeves said, step by step. And don't let them jump over nothing. Say, no, wait a minute, you're all talking a little fast here. Let's go back to point number 2. I'm not through with that yet. Y'all will move to point 4. And just keep them at it. And they'll say, well, we don't have time. I was told that once. I said, well, I can come back. I'm on the clock. See?
Yeah, and see that too. We don't have time. Oh, well, we don't have that. They just use that. They literally just use that. Well, we have a small team and we don't have this and we don't have that and this resource or whatever. That ain't got nothing to do with me. Nothing. What it is, they wanted to hurry up and get off the phone. They didn't want the conversation to be recorded. So, they're already setting it up in their favor. And you got to slow them back down and say, no, let's stick to the narrative here. I want answers to these questions. Because if you can't answer my questions, there ain't no sense of me talking to you. You're wasting my time now. If you can't answer these questions, these are simple questions. These aren't Tesla. These aren't Elon Musk Tesla rocket science questions. I'm not trying to launch a space shuttle out to Mars. I'm trying to get a simple answer for a simple question. And they couldn't produce it. When that happens, you kind of got them over the ringer. They're trying to figure out how are we going to go about doing this. Because we've already told them that we can't provide in-time company training for any cloud architecture or any containerization software and architecture. We can't provide that during the course of the workday. Remember? We've already told him that. So now they're trying to invoke the same thing again. They're trying to invoke the same thing again. Well, what do you think? What do you think we need? What do you think we can do? Doesn't make any sense. It does not make any sense. And they know that.
See, I can do this every day. Because I don't want to be down yonder doing all that work no way. Okay? So, I mean, just set up another appointment. I can be here at whatever time I can just bypass the place that I usually work, come right in here, and we can spend all day defending what? The Constitution. Now, I'm going to tell you why. You write something and mention the Constitution of the United States, particularly the 5th and 14th Amendments. That deals with due process, doing things the correct way, and equal protection of the laws. Now, once you do this on paper, that can go all the way to the Supreme Court.
Literally.
See? I mean, just, sooner, it might take forever to get there. Chances are it will. And then you got to deal with who's there. All right? But I'm saying you open that door. As long as you keep that stuff on some policy, regulation, they just about got you hands down. But when you say the Constitution is under threat, it might work.
Just as,
yes, sir.
And real quick to sum up, just as Mr. Fuller had advised me prior to the situation.
But go ahead.
Prior to the situation, after it went all the way through, and they had decided that they had to blame it on a third white person if we go to the Inspector General.
Which was probably another constitutional violation.
But
if they actually deliberately did this.
Exactly, but the key was that I'd already charged everyone in the room with subversion. See, that was the key, because it was already shown through the evidence and proven on the computer records that someone...
Or the logic and the evidence led to them.
Exactly.
Through their own investigation.
Through their own investigation.
All right, which is the way it's supposed to work when it works beautifully.
Exactly. And then when the supervisor said that, well, what we have here is I don't think we need to go to Inspector General. He said exactly what Mr. Fuller said he was going to say. He said some mistakes were made. He said some mistakes were made, and I think we have a big communication problem. He said, so what I think everyone needs to do is rally as a team and go.
Now, there you go again. That's another one that they use. Well, that's not what you heard. You have 2 ears given to you by God, but they don't work. That's really what they're saying in that. You didn't hear that. That's not what she said, or, I don't know if she said that or whatever. That's why I said on the communication, on the conversation. Now, I probably could have recorded that, the one-on-one, but then they know they would have created a new policy for that. Well, you can't record your one-on-ones with your managers. See? Oh, that policy, I would have broke policy with that. If I would have did that, and they would have said, okay, well, they created a new policy. Not for me, because by that time I would have been long gone. But the point is, they would have had that, because the thing is when people are being recorded or people are being on camera, they do one of two things. They either act a damn fool and can't shut up, or they don't want to say anything. That's usually what happens when you turn on a microphone or a camera. People just start acting a fool because they want to perform and they got to show everybody, or they're just like, hey, I don't want to say nothing at all. One of the two. It's usually not in between. They don't want to say nothing, or they want to say too damn much. And that's why they don't want it to be recorded. All HR, all one-on-ones with managers, that should be a law. That should be a policy in every company. But they don't want that because they want wiggle room to be able to say and do things they probably shouldn't be doing in the first place. And that gives them that wiggle room. But if they say, well, we usually don't do that. Now, what I could have said is, well, in order for me to have this conversation, I need to have some proof. Because the thing is, the Zoom session, now, ain't that ironic? That's very, very interesting that happened. Because you want a Zoom session to record the customer so the customer can't say that you did anything to break their environment. You would want the customer to have that recorded. But HR, which is supposed to uphold the highest level of ethics and the highest level of code of conduct, they don't want to be recorded? Because if I was an HR or if I was a manager or something, I mean, yeah, you can record me. Absolutely. Record this conversation. We can play this in front of the world. I'll stand behind every damn thing I said. I'm not ashamed to say what I'm going to say to you right now. I'll say that to the whole planet. But the fact that you don't want to record it, then there's something you're trying to hide. And why are you trying to hide it? That's another question.
Go back out and let's attack the problems, okay? So I said, okay. And we all walked out. Now here's the part for the second conversation he told you about when you're talking with a white person, how they can help you. I walked out. Everyone left. Everybody shook hands. The guy got ready to call me and they shook hands because he's happy they're going to blame it on the third white guy now instead of him, because it was him. Walked back in, and he said, I said, Ted, I said, that was all fine and good. I said, but I can't accept anything that you said in your ruling. And he said, well, why is that? Is it just a communication problem? Everybody's going to get back on the team. I said, no, Ted. I said, when we walked in here, I was stripped. I was fired. It was over for me. I said, now that it appears that it's someone else, it's a communication problem. You see, I said, now, I don't know, but this seems to be, I suspect this could be racism, okay? I says, I'm not saying that it is, but look how I'm left to think about it, and things like this have happened before. He says, oh, is that what you think it is? I said, I think it could be. And he says, well, what do you think we should do about it? I said, I'm glad you asked. Yeah. I said, from here on out, what I need from you is for you to tell me any information that you think I need to do my job correctly, because I'm often mistaken. And you just found that we have a communication problem here. I said, I've been finding that there's a communication problem. I said, so I need you to tell me whenever I'm doing anything incorrect, and I also need you to tell me anything that I need to do my job better.
And see, now that got them into that methodology that I just explained earlier. What can we do for you to make you more productive? Well, the complaint that y'all had, because see, I didn't have any complaints. The complaint that y'all had was product knowledge. That's why I asked the question, okay, what product knowledge should you be able to have? And how do you measure that? What skill sets? What do you need to be able to do A, B, and C? Okay? Well, what do you need to be able to do it? And I just kept mentioning the newer technology, because that's where I would want the training to be if I were to have it. You would want the training to be within Kubernetes. You would want it to be in the cloud platforms, whether it be Azure, whether it be AWS. Another reason why they're not too gung-ho on you knowing too much, they want you to know just enough so you can be able to support the product on their back end. Why? Because if you know above and beyond what they're just showing you just to be able to do the basic break fix, if you're really able to configure and performance tune, then you don't need them anymore. You don't need them anymore. You could go on, and that's what a lot of technical support engineers in this environment have done. I'm not gonna mention their name, but that's what a lot of them have done. They went on to other companies where they could make $30,000 to $50,000 or more than that what they were making there. They were getting underpaid over here. So they're like, well, wait a minute, it's not so much as they're being greedy, it's just that, okay, you know what value you bring to the table. You know what value you bring to the table. So, it's a common understanding. Somebody over here, you're in a terrible environment, right? And someone's giving you 70,000. Well, if you go over to another environment, let's say it's terrible, but you get 140. You're like, okay, well, I chalk up that's 60 plus thousand. You're just getting paid to deal with the crap. That's the difference. And you're learning a new technology and a new skill set.
So that I can get all my promotions on time and everything. I said, and then what I'll do, I said, that's your part. And then what I'll do is I'll make sure that you do that. I says, I'll make sure that you do that, and I'll do whatever you ask me to do that's legal. Okay? And he sat there, and he says, well, we can't operate that way. You need to have more autonomy. I said, no, remember, Ted, we have communication problems. I was just fired a couple minutes ago. I said, we need the help. And so we went through it. And it's been really interesting because, of course, neither of these people, they rarely, if ever, talk to me. All they do is send me emails about training courses, send me emails about, reliability courses and things to do. And whenever I go to them, they know that it's going to be about the job and nothing else. And what I'm saying is it went from terroristic through trashy, and it's back to tacky. Because that's how it is. It's just real tacky.
Any better than tacky.
Now,
I want to mention something just for a moment. He mentioned somebody admitted to a mistake. See, when these things start, under codification, you grab everything that will help you, even when everything is going your way, because something's coming down the pike in the future.
Yes. See? And that's how I learned about that. That's when I started to write any rebuttals or report, because they could, like I said, they could say that you did something. It doesn't matter whether you did it or not. That's my point. I want y'all to understand, black folks, I want y'all to understand this. Okay? Now, I'm going to read 2 articles, and I'm going to talk about a position. I'm going to try to do that from now on. Read a couple articles and break those down a little bit. And then there's a position that came up of some company, and I want to do a little analysis on that. I didn't want this to be this long tonight, y'all, but I thought it was needed. So I'm going to try to put some music behind here, make it sound real good. We might throw NK music on there. So one of the things, if you guys don't already know, this article came out on September 21st, is Cisco makes the largest ever acquisition, buying cybersecurity company Splunk for $28 billion in cash. When I was working at a company doing API support, they use Splunk. Splunk is a SIEM, SIEM. Look that up. So they acquired the firm, $157 per share in an all-cash deal. Cisco will finance the deal using a combination of cash and debt. It's by far Cisco's largest and deepest the company's bet on security software. That was a pretty smart buy. So, Splunk, as you know, it helps monitor business and analyze their data to minimize risk of hacks and resolve technical issues faster. Splunk is something that y'all want to try to get into. Go ahead and become a power user of Splunk if you can. Cisco has long been the world's largest maker of computer networking equipment. You already know that. And has been bolstering its cybersecurity business to meet customer demands and fuel growth. So, yeah, that's pretty big. Prior to Splunk, Cisco's biggest deal ever was a $6.9 billion purchase of cable set-top box maker Scientific Atlanta in 2006. At the time, Cisco's market cap was just over $100 billion. I didn't know that. I should have, I guess. Revenue in the core business climbed 22% in the fiscal year, ended July 29 to $29 billion, and the security unit saw a rise 4% to $3.9 billion. So Cisco's doing their thing, man. Cisco's doing their thing. In 2023, Cisco has acquired 4 companies focused on security: Armor Blocks, which is a threat detection platform; Ort, which does identity management; and Valtix and Lightspin, both in cloud security. Yeah, so they grabbing it, man. They're grabbing a conglomerate. Now listen to this. I try to stay away from the politics on this channel here, but man, I just gotta say it. So much for Jim Crow Joe voters. So much for y'all, man, because here's an article here. This was from July 7th on ABC News. How corporate America is slashing diversity, and I hate that word, diversity and inclusion workers amid backlash to diversity programs. Years after the death of George Floyd shined a spotlight on societal inequities, diversity professionals say some companies are turning their backs on the progress that's been made to address them. So I told y'all a long time ago, after this Floyd thing blows over, it's back to business. Back to business. Okay? Madison Butler is one of the many diversity, equity, and inclusion professionals the companies previously brought on their payroll to ensure their business is equitable and accessible for people of all black backgrounds. I said backgrounds. Yeah, I should have said it the right way. Backgrounds. Because ultimately, what they did is, you know, a lot of these companies use it as a big scam. They got probably all kinds of tax write-offs and they want to make themselves look good. So they hired a bunch of black folks and then now it's time to cut us loose. Let's see what it says. That's my prediction. Recent months, Butler said she has found it increasingly hard to find work and she's not alone. DEI positions have been disproportionately hit by layoffs across industries, by particularly at tech companies which have faced financial challenges as sales slowed from the blistering pace attained during the pandemic. When Butler reached out to DEI professionals who plan to hire her for consulting, companies said, oh, this person is no longer with the company. Oh, this person has been laid off. Oh, this person no longer works here effective last month. She said it's difficult to be somewhere for a brief period of time and feel like you didn't even have the time to make the impact you wanted. The workplace is full of human beings and we're not robots. And it starts talking about George Floyd again. Companies sought out the expertise of DEI professionals. What they wanted to do is what I call in my book, the diversity and inclusion Negro mascots. That's who they wanted to hire. And now we don't need you Negroes anymore. That's what they mean. DEI initiatives are often intended to address workplace culture and conditions such as inaccessibility in the workplace for disabled people, poor retention rates for workers of color, marginalized groups, all these weasel words. These are all weasel words, broad and ambiguous terms, as Dr. Claude Anderson always calls it. Basically a bunch of BS. The 14th Amendment passed specifically for the descendants of the slaves, and now everybody gets it. Everybody's getting it. It says a LinkedIn study found that chief diversity inclusion officer positions grew up 168.9% from 2019 to 2022. Yeah, they playing this. They said, yeah, we gonna look. Yeah, right after Floyd's killing, everybody who didn't have a diversity office quickly created a diversity office. Yeah, they didn't want their companies to be burnt up and turned up on. They didn't want that. They said, well, hey, let's make it look good. Let's give some of these Negroes some grants. Now they cutting all the grants. Yeah, I'm telling you, black bodies, man. Black bodies swinging in the trees. I'm telling you, they made it to where they were like, hey, man, we going to cash in on this. We going to make it look good. Starting in late 2020, months after the killing of Floyd set off a radical reckoning, a host of companies escalated cuts of DEI professionals. A survey of more than 600 companies from data firm Revio Labs found. Last year, the layoffs accelerated significantly, the study found. 1 in 3 diversity and inclusion professionals lost their roles over a 1-year period ending in December, the survey said. Yeah, it's not, these positions are really just to be, well, this is a calm you Negroes down. Let's bring in some people with sexual orientation. Let's bring in some Negroes. Let's bring in some people of color. Let's just bring a whole bunch of people in here. That's what that position is for. It's not a specific skill set that you could actually put on a paper. You see? They don't really need it. Listen to this. The job losses owed to several trends: a sluggish economy that prompted cost cuts, a softening of the scrutiny that held corporations to account for racial justice, and a rise of conservative backlash against diversity and inclusion, some DEI professionals told ABC News. They got a picture of Greg Abbott here. At the same time, conservative elected officials such as DeSantis and Greg Abbott begin to target DEI. They like, hey, we don't need it. DeSantis last month signed into law a bill to prohibit state or federal spending on DEI programs at public universities in Florida. DeSantis is saying that, the acronym should be reinterpreted as discrimination, exclusion, and indoctrination. Interesting. And Abbott said he orders state agencies to stop using diversity, equity, and inclusion programs in hiring, calling them illegal. Yeah. Now, Butler, she's saying again, Butler and Melody believe that anti-DEI policies intend to turn progress back made by marginalized groups toward equality. And see, that's the diversity and inclusion thing for me. The issue with that, this marginalized garbage, this means everybody but black folk. That's really what they're trying to say. Now, Butler says people fear losing power. So much of this work has to be centered around deconstructing things like white supremacy, deconstructing status quos, and those status quos and white supremacy protect people in positions of power. But that's what being a race soldier is all about. But most of these, I'm gonna be honest, a lot of these tech positions, these IT tech positions, come from the liberal limousine. Most of these little tech positions where you look San Francisco and Minnesota and the Midwest and all these different places, I'm gonna be very honest. Most of these environments that I've been in these little liberal environments, it happens in both. But most of these DEI initiatives and stuff like that, the black folks is always they use our pain, but we're always at the bottom of the totem pole. They want to bring in, black and Latinx, and they always say, with sexual orientation and all this, and humpback, and this happened. No, it's a cap fest. It's a big capoeira fest with a lot of it. So but yeah, they gonna hit the brothers. They gonna hit mainly the sisters be in a lot of them roles. They got some dudes in there too, but I did get something here, and I think I'm just gonna go ahead and click confirm interest. But I got something on Indeed. Some guy reached out to me, and I thought it was something kind of janky at first until I looked it up. But it's an associate software development engineer from a company called, it says IT Next Generation Academy Program Opportunity. Now, this is supposed to be through Delta. It's in Minneapolis, no degree required. You have the opportunity to enhance your professional development in IT. Full-time position within Delta, intended to enhance the professional development early career talent in IT by deepening their understanding of the Delta business, blah, blah. Responsibilities, designing, prototyping, and demonstrating new features and components of front-end and back-end to users to ensure compliance. Design, implementation, optimization. Collaborate with technical teams. Align to security requirements. Own quality posture and write automated tests, ideally before writing code. Write code, fix problems. It's an on-site role, $65,000 to $85,000. 0 to 2 years of hands-on training. Understanding of software development lifecycle. They want Oracles, shell scripting, Linux, fundamental application of security principles of formal training, Agile, DevOps practices, AWS. Possess a high school diploma, GED, at least 18 years of age. Now, this place called 110 was designed to create pathways of opportunity for U.S. black talent. Okay, so somebody's using the term black. Let's look them up. Because when people start saying people of color, y'all know I ain't with it. But there's this place called 110. Let's look them up. So no, we're going to do a paperwork check. Creating 1 million jobs for black talent. Okay. All right. Let's see. These places talk a good game. Let's see what they're talking about. What's the mission? Now y'all know my policy here. If they start talking about people of color and all this other stuff, okay, they say black talent. Okay, folks is blacking it up. Okay, they say the average difference in family net wealth between white and black families, 143 racks. 76% of black adults in America without a 4-year college degree. 79% family sustaining jobs that require 4 years. Okay. Talent developers. Okay, so they're yeah. Yeah, they've heard the grassroots. Oh, there we go. Galvanizing change within corporate America. The memory of George Floyd forged a reckoning with the systemic oppression of black people in America. Blah, blah, blah. Days after his murder, leading black executives Ken Chenault and Ken Fraser came together to discuss how corporations can take meaningful and sustained action for racial justice and equity in America. Okay. All right. Let's see what they're talking about here. They formed a coalition to break through barriers, economic opportunity. 30 founding companies: Merck, IBM, Bain & Company, American Express, Delta, Gilead, HP, Nike, Nordstrom, Target, Whirlpool. Promoting 1 million black individuals into family-sustaining careers over the next 10 years. All right, let's look at the optics. Let's look. Do they have any black nuclear family pictures? That's important. I'm always about promoting that. I don't want to hear nothing else. Let's see here. So far, okay, leadership. Let's look at the leadership. It looks decent. I think I might have to pass this on to the brothers. They start off right. Okay, 110 leadership team. Debbie Dyson, Sabrina Dupree. I think she's Mexican or something. I don't know. So they got one black person as the CEO. And then I see, looks like an Indian guy. Got an Asian lady. Got another sister here. Got a white lady. Another white dude. This dude, I don't know if he's black or not. He looks like it. Got this brother here. Got another brother. Okay. Well, I mean, you know, board of directors is usually mixed up a lot of times. So it looks like they got folks in Lowe's, Northrop Grumman. I had my homie over there for some years doing app dynamics. Delta Airlines, Cargill. I did some stuff for them before. Bank of America, Johnson & Johnson, IBM, Cisco, Walmart. Medtronic. I sent a lot of people over to Medtronic. Deloitte, Accenture. Tried to get in there before. General Motors, Roper, Cleveland Clinic. Okay. Well, I might pass this around. And, you know, it's passed the paperwork check so far. State of the workforce. Okay, research insights on black talent. All right, they got a tech scholarship to represent black representation in the tech sector. Okay, they done heard us. What it is, they done heard black folks don't want to hear none of this people of color crap. Okay, this looks pretty cool. State of the black workforce. All right, overview. Let's see here. %76% of black adults without a 4-year degree and with a household income of less than 50 grand report they earn an hourly wage. What else do they got? Pretty decent looking support. Okay, they got a black couple here. All right. Okay. To attract black talent, companies should emphasize the stability of a family sustaining salary and benefits. Okay. I like they use the word family. Yeah, they know we're not going for none of the BS anymore. So they're trying to use the words. Okay, that's just fine and dandy. All right, now what are they talking about here? Now this is from PR Newswire. This is from October 14th, 2021. 110 pledges over 3,000 tech education scholarships over the next 10 years to increase black representation in the tech sector. Okay. I might have to cover that next time. I got to send this to my guy, Cyber International. We need in on this. Blacks in technology found. Okay, all right. What's this? Okay, well, this position I'm looking at, associate software development engineer. Matter of fact, let me respond to this here and let him know, this guy here. Good evening, sir. Pretty sure that's a sir. I am interested in this position, I also am a former tech trainer and know plenty black folks looking for work. There we go. Send. You say you trying to get black folks in. All right, let's see if they for real. All right, you guys, I'm going to go ahead and edit this. Thanks for rocking out. I know it's been over an hour and a half. I normally don't do these that long. I promise I'm going to start doing a lot more content on this page, because I don't think I've done any in a long time. So make sure you like, share, and subscribe. You know you're going to get an unapologetic zoo. I said view. I said zoo. You're going to get an unapologetic view. And we got some new things coming down the pipeline. So make sure you like, share, subscribe. We appreciate you.